and welcome back to the channel. Today we are going to be talking about The Valley season 2 episode 7. I cannot believe there's only been 7 episodes of this show so far because it feels like we should be at the end of the season in my opinion. And listen, there's a lot of conversation going around about so many things on The Valley. I have a hard time being solidly on anyone's side on The Valley. I feel like since everyone hates Janet, everything she does and says is wrong and people can never kind of see where she's coming from, right? And don't get me wrong, I'm not a fan of Janet. I'm really not. When it comes to the Danny drinking in the pantry situation, when I heard Danny talk about his perspective, which was he went into the pantry to get a White Claw. In there was a bottle of Casamigos, so he took a shot of Casamigos. Simple enough. I don't think that is a red flag. Janet, it has expressed that she had a partner who had alcohol issues, and to her, who was just going into the pantry to get a cup of mac and cheese, she saw him coming in there behind her sneaking a shot of Casamigos. I do see where their perspectives are different. Do I think that Danny has an alcohol issue? It seems like Danny does not drink a lot, but when he does, he gets out of control. That, in my opinion, is a form of a issue with alcohol. Okay, I think a lot of people have this stereotype around alcoholism, alcohol issues, that you drink, you all are always drinking, right? You are drinking when you shouldn't be, XYZ. And that's not necessarily the case all the time, and that's not the case here. It has been said multiple times that when Danny does drink, he is often getting kicked out of bars. He's almost always getting kicked out of bars is what was said. You know, he had that situation with Jasmine and her partner Melissa where he is crossing lines. In my opinion, that is an alcohol issue. I run a bar. If I have to kick the same person out multiple times for being excessively drunk, I'm going to ban them. And I am going to say like that person has an issue. I know I'm one of the only people willing to kind of throw Janet a bone there and say like she sees things differently because of her past. And I don't have to like Janet to understand that she has a past with somebody who was an alcoholic and that she sees things differently. Now, do I like the way that Janet relayed that information to Nia? Do I like the way she kind of came at her about, you know, if you ever want to talk about Danny having alcohol issues, I had a partner who had to go to AA or something, whatever she said the episode before last. No, I didn't love that. I just am willing to accept in this situation that her perspective is different. I am kind of the belief that these men are kind of being judged by the actions of their wives, right? So in this case, I mean, I think that if Danny was married to anybody else on the cast, not Nia, who everybody loves, and I like Nia, don't get me wrong. I don't think that Nia has done anything wrong. I found her story to be very inspirational, and I completely understood why she told the story, right? I just think that because Nia is so beloved, people are not like really seeing Danny for who he is. In the same breath, I would not want I don't want Nia judged because of Danny's decisions. You get what I'm saying? I just think that there are just two extremes, like I said, because people love Nia, they're willing to forgive Danny and overlook kind of his bad behavior, and because they hate Janet, everything Jason does, any type of conversation Jason has with his wife and then has with anybody else is going to be seen as him doing Janet's dirty work. On that topic, in a way, all of these men are aligned with their wives, right? You have Luke, who in the episode when Jesse and Kristen and himself were at lunch and Kristen said, oh, well, Jason doesn't wear his wedding ring out. Luke said, Kristen is saying more things that are just going to start more drama. I don't know why she brought that up. But by the time we got to the pool party, he was like, oh yeah, I heard that, you know, Jason doesn't wear his wedding ring. He was ready to get all up in the mix. I am a person that has complicated feelings about Kristen Doute. I also think that if Kristen were not so hard on the side of Team Danny and Nia, that she could probably hear what Jasmine was saying a little bit. Because I personally felt like Jasmine and Luke were kind of, or just not, sorry, not Jasmine and Luke. I personally felt like Kristen and Luke were kind of undercutting what Jasmine was saying when talking about how she was triggered by Danny's actions. I feel like if Danny were anybody else, any other man in the group, that Kristen would have had her back a little bit more. And not that Kristen hasn't had Jasmine's back, right? She has listened to her when she has said her feelings. I've never seen Jasmine undermine, or I keep messing up names. There's too many J names on this cast. I've never seen Kristen undermine Jasmine's feelings about Danny violating her and Melissa. When it comes to the Danny, Jasmine, Melissa of it all, listen, one of the creators on TikTok made an amazing point. Her name is Erica. She said that it feels like the reason we were just thrown this information about Jasmine, Danny, and Melissa is because it was not presented to us in a way that it should have been. Now, for me personally, I don't need the information presented in a pretty package for me to understand what happened, right? At the end of the day, Jasmine and Melissa felt violated, and they felt like they got a half-ass apology, and they're still a little triggered by it. I know that there's been a lot of conversation about people saying like, oh, Jasmine is dragging this for a storyline. Danny apologized to her and she accepted it. She needs to move on. That's just not how things work when you have been violated and you've been harassed. And again, I think people would understand that more if it were somebody else besides Danny and Jasmine and Melissa. If somebody harasses you at work and you go through the HR complaint and they apologize and they still work with you, you may accept their apology, but you are not going to be buddy-buddy with them. I do personally feel like it's hard for me to really say how I feel about Jasmine because the conversations that surround her in the audience get so ignorant. They have taken such a dark turn. I don't think that you have to like Jasmine. I don't actually agree with a lot of things that Jasmine says or does. I don't like that she attached herself to Janet and it felt like her point got lost, right? And she does annoy me sometimes. Absolutely. It's just hard because I'm never going to make a space for people to make ignorant comments like, oh, I didn't know she was on The Bachelor. She switched teams because Nick Viall didn't want her. I'm never going to make comments or make space for people to deny and undercut a woman's experience, especially when the man has said, yes, I did that. So that's why it's really hard for me because I feel like because the fandom is so ignorant when it comes to Jasmine, I can't fully say like, yeah, she annoyed me a little bit, with her reaction to XYZ. When she was on The Bachelor, she kind of annoyed me a little bit with her reactions. I don't dislike Jasmine. I actually like her, but it's hard because you can't fully say, well, I feel like I can't. The next thing is when it comes to Jasmine and Melissa, we already know that when Danny was so drunk, he didn't even know who he had violated. He thought at first that he had violated Michelle. Right? And he called Jesse to apologize to Jesse. That logic doesn't make sense. But when he found, it seems like, because again, the producers, they didn't give us all of the details of this story in the right way for us to really know what happened. But it seemed like when he found out that it was Jasmine and Melissa, it was kind of like, oh, this happened in October, and then we know that we are watching this show in August, and he says he didn't apologize until the white party. When was the white party? I'm not sure, but if we are in August as of season 2 episode 7, the one we're talking about, the white party was 7 episodes ago. I'm going to assume that there was a big chunk of time between October and the white party. So did they not get an apology? Like, when did they get an apology? You see what I'm saying? So there's things missing there for me. When it comes to Jason doesn't wear his wedding ring, this is a rumor. And like I said earlier in the video, I know that we are having this Kristen renaissance. Kristen is still going to be Kristen. She annoyed me a couple episodes ago when she said, anybody who says anything to Nia is going to have to deal with me. My issue with that is, I feel like that means that Nia can never do anything wrong. Because Nia has had a very sad past does not mean that she is incapable of doing anything wrong. Do I think Nia did anything wrong to any of these women here? No. I want to make that very clear. That reasoning to me, it's very Kristen, okay? And then Kristen just starts throwing things out of the blue, rumors that she heard about Jason. I don't doubt that Jason didn't have his wedding ring on, because I think all of these men are trash. And I think all of them know where the bodies are buried with one another. Jesse's face didn't even freaking move when Kristen brought that rumor up at lunch about Jason not wearing his wedding ring. So it's one of those things where it's like, okay. Also, there's been a lot of people complaining that Jasmine doesn't say anything to Nia's face when she has an issue. It's all behind her back. Kristen didn't say that to Jason and Janet's face either. She said it to her boyfriend and to Jesse with a camera crew in front of her. And yeah, Kristen is doing her job. Essentially, everybody's doing their job. You know what I mean? It was so Kristen, and this very things that she gets praised for sometimes just irk me, because Kristen is a vet in this game. Kristen has been doing this for a very long time. When other people do things similar to what Kristen did, they get dragged for it. I don't believe that you need to have tenure in this reality TV game to play the game properly, or to do something and it finally be considered valid. Sometimes I really don't know what we're going to do when it comes to the Valley, when it comes to long term, because you have these little teams, right? You have the married couples, okay? And then you have, Jasmine, Zach, they're not friends up. They are full-time cast members, but they're in the mix in a different way than the married couples, because it does feel like the married couples are all looking out for each other in their own relationships, as they should, because they are married, but they're never going to switch it up. Who is going to be the Greek chorus of this show? It's not Kristen. I know everybody wants it to be Kristen. It's not Kristen. Why? Because Kristen does the things that she does, where she's like, I'm just going to say this rumor because I'm standing up for my friend and getting involved in other people's mess. I don't think it's going to be Sheena or Lala or anybody from Vanderpump Rules. It's one of those things where this is a hodgepodge. I have no clue where we actually move forward, because Kristen and Michelle have not said one word to each other for real, besides pick a side, who are you on, me or Jesse? And clearly Kristen was on Jesse's because Michelle won't talk to her, rightfully so. You can't have a cast full of people who will not speak to each other. It's just not going to last that way. And lastly, again, I do feel for Brittany when it comes to the Jax of it all. I know we all told her not to marry that man. Okay, the signs were there. But when you are in it, and once you have property, a child, all of these, the stakes are higher than when they were when she first agreed to marry him and was first with him. Even though, again, signs were there, the stakes are higher now. My heart broke for her when she found out that he had not paid the mortgage. I know some people who may be unfamiliar with like how mortgages and leases work. He really fucked her. I cannot believe that he, one, hadn't paid the mortgage. That's just a big no-no. But two, then went and signed a lease without talking to her. And their finances are all intertwined, right? I think that people underestimate how shocking and low-key traumatic it can be to find out that your partner has not been paying the bills. I have been there before. It sends a different type of panic through you, and I can only imagine the type of panic that Brittany is going through, because she does have a child to worry about. And not only a child with Jax, and then a child who is autistic also. My heart really, really breaks for her. It really does. And I don't know why Jax is coming back. I don't want to see him anymore, because kind of like what I said about Phaedra coming in at the end of Real Housewives of Atlanta, it feels like we are just going to be moving backwards. Like Jax is going to come in there, blow some shit up, talk about stuff that we've already talked about because he feels like he needs to make up for wasted time. I know my feelings on the Valley are unpopular. They're kind of all over the place, but as per usual, if you have any feelings, comments on these shows, make sure to comment down below. Tell me what you're thinking. Make sure to keep it respectful as always. I will be back in a few days to talk to y'all about the Summer House Part 1 reunion. I'm really excited to see that. I can't wait to see what the big reveal actually is, or if Jesse Solomon was just blowing smoke, right? Make sure to hit subscribe, like, and comment, and I will talk to y'all next time.